She's alleged to have shot her 2-year-old daughter 2 times in the chest at close range, leading to her death.
Prepare me for something to this magnitude. My grandbaby is gone forever.
Why did he have to smash his car right against my family?
I am so sorry.
Malcolm Ray Hardy was involved in a confrontation that escalated, leading to the tragic loss of Erin Benson, LaShawn Marshall, and her son, Caleb Harris. Testimony suggested that Hardy may have been delivering marijuana to Benson when a disagreement turned into a fatal encounter. In court, Hardy pleaded guilty to 3 counts of second-degree murder. The sentencing brought an outpouring of grief from the victims' families.
You stopped Caleb's life before he had a chance to start one. God never prepared me for something to this magnitude. My grandbaby is gone forever.
When given the opportunity to speak, Hardy took responsibility for his actions.
The defendant did plead guilty and took responsibility for what he did.
Facing the families he had impacted, he said,
I want to say I apologize to the court and the family and everybody else out there in the world. I didn't mean for this to happen, and I pray for their families and my family.
Acknowledging the severity of the case, the judge advised,
your debt should be to contribute to the community for the wrong that you have done.
The court sentenced Hardy to 28 to 60 years for each murder charge, to be served at the same time. Additionally, he received a 2-year sentence for a firearm-related charge, to be served first. With credit for time already served, Hardy will be eligible for parole after 30 years. By then, he will be 48 years old. Esther Callejas appeared in court, facing charges related to a tragic incident that resulted in the loss of her daughter, Esperanza Isidro, and left her son critically injured.
She's alleged to have shot her 2-year-old daughter 2 times in the chest at close range, leading to her death. She also shot her son at least 3 times in this case.
According to investigators, Callejas had been struggling with severe depression in the weeks leading up to the event. She reportedly told authorities she wanted her daughter and son to go to heaven and had intended to take her own life afterward.
At this time, you are facing 1 count of murder and possibly a 2nd count if your son does end up passing away, since he is currently in critical condition.
Police discovered she had purchased a firearm years earlier and kept it hidden from her husband. On the morning of the incident, she allegedly attempted to carry out her plan, but was unable to reload the weapon. She then tried to overdose on prescription medication.
We believe that she is a danger to the community and herself, and we believe a $2 million cash bond is appropriate in this case.
During her court appearance, prosecutors requested a $2 million cash bond, citing concerns for public safety and her own well-being. The judge granted the request, highlighting the severity of the case. In February 2023, Callejas pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and aggravated assault. A judge sentenced her to 40 years in prison. Thomas McIntyre stood before the court, facing the consequences of a tragic decision that claimed the life of Alexis Gonzalez. He pleaded guilty to first-degree reckless homicide, admitting responsibility for the devastating crash. The incident occurred while Gonzalez and his family were celebrating a graduation. Surveillance footage captured the moment McIntyre's vehicle collided with theirs near Highway 100 and National in West Allis.
Why did he have to smash his car right against my family?
The impact was fatal for Alexis, leaving his family shattered. His mother, who was also in the car, described the unbearable pain of losing her son.
My whole life changed after June 15th. The worst part was not even having to bury my son and knowing he was dead. What's worse is having to continue on living in his absence.
McIntyre later confessed to police that he had been drinking and struggling with a mental health crisis at the time of the crash. In court, he expressed deep remorse, addressing the victim's family directly.
My heart goes out to the Gonzalez family for the pain, both emotional and physical, that I've caused. I am so sorry.
I just cannot justify your actions, though, sir, and the terrible fatality that you caused.
The judge, calling it one of the worst traffic fatalities she had ever seen, acknowledged his remorse but emphasized the severity of his actions. She sentenced him to 25 years in prison, followed by 10 years of extended supervision. A tragic incident unfolded in Las Vegas when 41-year-old Adrian Rodriguez Guillen was arrested for a violent attack that left his ex-wife's girlfriend dead and his ex-wife critically injured. According to Metro Police, Rodriguez Guillen called 911 and admitted to the shooting. Officers arrived to find 2 women inside a vehicle in the Southeast Valley. One of the victims, identified as 40-year-old Adriana Herrera, did not survive. The second victim, Rodriguez Guillen's ex-wife, was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Investigators revealed that the suspect had cut off the victim's vehicle before confronting them. Moments later, the situation escalated, leading to a tragic outcome.
He pulled past their vehicle, cut that vehicle off, got out of his car, and began immediately into that car, striking both the female occupants.
Witnesses described a chaotic scene as police and emergency responders arrived, blocking off the intersection.
Once we came out, we did see the 2 cars. I'm guessing it was the husband that had already shot the ex-wife and the second passenger. Maybe like 5 minutes after, there was already full of police cars, ambulance, and such. They did block off that whole intersection right over there.
Rodriguez Guillen was taken into custody and now faces multiple charges, including open murder and kidnapping.
During the holiday seasons and even after the holiday seasons, domestic issues tend to be on the rise.
Authorities also noted an increase in domestic violence incidents during and after the holiday season, highlighting the need for early intervention in such cases. Rodriguez Guillen remains in custody without bail as the case moves forward. The sentencing of 3 women in connection to the tragic loss of Jordan Coleman brought emotional moments in the courtroom. His mother, Fantasia Goldson, expressed her grief, heartbroken that those responsible for her son's passing were allowed to move forward with their lives, while she could only visit his grave.
Am I going to hear him say, "Mommy"? Am I going to hear him say, "I love you"? Am I going to get a kiss goodbye? No, not at all. He's in the grave, dead. I gotta talk to a plot just to say, "I love you." And they get to live their life? They get to live their life.
The case stemmed from an incident at a Tamarack daycare, where Jordan was accidentally left inside a locked SUV. Camille Gordon and Paris Ward, who were responsible for transporting the boys and girls that day, forgot he was still in the vehicle. Investigators determined that Jordan's condition worsened due to extreme heat inside the car. Further investigations revealed that Cecily Roberts, the owner of the daycare, had instructed Camille and Paris to transport them elsewhere to avoid exceeding the daycare's capacity limit.
Y'all took that from me in 2.5 because y'all was doing dumb stuff, hiding from whatever y'all was doing because y'all was really trying to be greedy for money. Greedy.
In court, Camille Gordon and Paris Ward were each sentenced to 15 years of probation. Ward, overcome with emotion, sobbed as the judge delivered the ruling. Cecily Roberts was sentenced to 5 years in prison, minus time served. She will begin serving her term after completing an unrelated federal sentence. A tragic crash on Interstate 95 South claimed the life of Olivia Passaretti when her vehicle was struck by a Mercedes-Benz driven by Aramis Segura. Instead of staying at the scene, Segura fled on foot, calling his girlfriend, Alicia Peckham, for help. She picked him up and later misled authorities when they arrived at their Charlestown apartment, denying that he was there. Officers eventually found him hiding inside.
Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
During the trial, Peckham was found guilty of aiding and abetting a criminal, helping a driver flee after a fatal crash, concealing a felony, and obstructing an officer.
She did deserve better, and this doesn't bring her back. Hearing the word guilty on each charge was just a little bit of a sigh of relief. Each moment saying, "This is for you. It's for you, Liv."
For Olivia's family, justice has been served, but the pain of losing her remains. Her loved ones continue to mourn her loss, remembering the bright future that was taken too soon.
No one's happy, but, justice was served and she needs to pay her consequences for what she did.
Any comment on the verdict?
Peckham was sentenced to 3 years, serving 10 months in prison, followed by 26 months of home confinement. Segura later pleaded no contest to driving to endanger resulting in death and leaving the scene of an accident with death resulting. The judge sentenced him to 25 years with 17 years in prison, an 8-year loss of his driver's license, and a $5,000 fine. Ann Lee Baldock and Madison Elizabeth Cornwell, two promising medical students at UC San Diego, lost their lives in a tragic car crash involving 21-year-old Marine Jason Riley King.
Would you please identify where that person is and how you know that person?
According to witness testimony, King had been drinking with friends before deciding to drive.
Jason King.
Do you see Mr. King in court today?
I do.
Can you please identify for the record where he is in the courtroom?
I told him that we should just go back to my apartment. He was in no condition to drive.
Fellow Marine Hannah Talbot and others urged him to stay or take a safe ride home, but he refused.
Told him that I was concerned about his safety and that he should let us get him a Lyft or an Uber to get him a safe ride home.
A bar manager also testified that he offered to call King a ride after noticing his condition, but King insisted he was fine and left on his own. Not long after, King was spotted driving in the wrong direction on Highway 163. His vehicle collided head-on with a Prius carrying several medical students. Madison Cornwell, who was behind the wheel, had no chance to react. Both she and Ann Lee Baldock lost their lives in the crash, while 3 others sustained serious injuries. One of the survivors later testified in court, still recovering from his injuries. In January 2018, after reviewing the evidence, a jury acquitted King of murder charges, but found him guilty of 2 counts of gross vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated. A few months later, in April 2018, he was sentenced to 17 years in state prison. Daniel Reuben Martin stood in court, facing the family of Michael Shook, the man whose life was taken in a violent attack at Bonita Cove Park. Shook, a 65-year-old former wildlife park worker and hospice nurse, had been experiencing homelessness while battling cancer. His body was discovered during a routine cleanup at the park, leading investigators to uncover that he had been assaulted by a group of boys, including Martin. During sentencing, Shook's son delivered an emotional statement describing his father's lasting impact on those around him.
Led to the loss of my father's life. He received the death penalty. My family has a lifetime sentence of grief. He made a positive impact on many lives. He left a positive impact on San Diego since he was the bird show. He worked at the bird show at the Wild Animal Park, and he also worked as a hospice nurse at San Diego Hospice. My father was not just some homeless man sleeping on a bench.
In court, Martin expressed remorse, apologizing directly to Shook's family.
I want to apologize so sincerely for all the pain and agony that I brought upon your family and my family as well. I understand that anything that I say or do right now will not make what I did that morning okay or bring Mr. Shook back. But I ask for your forgiveness to the fullest extent possible. I would do anything to go back and bring Mr. Shook back, as he did not deserve this, nor should a situation like this ever happen. During my time incarcerated, I've had a lot of ups and downs, and have also sadly lost my father to a very similar situation.
When asked if he accepted Martin's apology, Shook's son admitted that while the sentencing brought some closure, he was not ready to forgive. However, he expressed hope that Martin would use this experience to turn his life around. Martin accepted a plea deal and was sentenced to 7 years in prison for voluntary manslaughter. A boy was also charged in connection with Shook's death. His case was handled in juvenile court, and while he accepted a plea deal, the details of his sentence remain undisclosed. Jason Zay, a 19-year-old accused in a tragic crash that claimed the life of Megan Voss, is now facing trial. Investigators revealed that Zay had been drinking at his girlfriend's house before getting behind the wheel.
Going approximately 50 miles per hour through a controlled intersection. It was a 4-way stop sign. He did not have the right-of-way. He did not slow down.
Witnesses reported seeing him racing another car, flashing his lights, and speeding through a 4-way stop without slowing down. His pickup truck collided with Voss's car, striking the driver's side. The Waukesha West High School senior, an aspiring doctor and cheerleader, was rushed to the hospital but did not survive.
The car was up on the curb, and I tried to get her to wake up, and She was unresponsive.
Literally, it was as if he had a gun in his hand, and the victim had very little chance of surviving.
A criminal complaint later confirmed that Zahi's blood alcohol level was more than 3 times the legal limit at the time of the crash. When informed of Voss's death, he reportedly told investigators, "I should be going for life. Honestly, I took a life."
I think that Mr. Zahi was cooperative with law enforcement. He did what was asked of him. He was clearly emotional during the entire communication with them.
During his court appearance, prosecutors emphasized his history of reckless behavior. They cited a previous incident in which he crashed his car on his girlfriend's property after drinking and noted a separate citation for driving 98 miles per hour.
Your character as it relates to you getting behind the wheel of a car is you are a safety risk.
Despite showing remorse and cooperating with law enforcement, he was deemed a safety risk, and his bond was set at $250,000. He has pleaded not guilty to multiple charges, including homicide by intoxicated use of a vehicle and second-degree reckless homicide. His next court appearance is scheduled for April 25th, 2025. Stephanie Fagundes, a 25-year-old woman from Stockton, was reported missing in October. After weeks of searching, her remains were discovered beneath a home in Modesto, leading investigators to 41-year-old Albert Jr. Gonzalez. Authorities connected him to the case through a separate assault investigation, which ultimately led them to her location. In court, Gonzalez pleaded not guilty to multiple charges, including murder and assault. Stephanie's family remembers her as a kind and loving person who always welcomed others with an open heart. Her mother, Deborah Fagan, shared that she accepted everyone no matter what. She was one of 7 siblings and leaves behind a daughter, now in the care of her family. As legal proceedings move forward, her loved ones continue to mourn while focusing on raising her daughter and keeping her memory alive. Cornelius Beggs was charged in connection with the death of 34-year-old Lysa Story, his fiancée, and the mother of their daughter. The case began after the couple had an argument over visitation rights and child support paperwork. The next morning, Story's mother found her unresponsive in the bathroom and immediately called the police. Investigators later discovered a knife near her, along with a pair of jeans with red stains and a wallet containing Beggs' ID in a nearby closet. That same morning, Beggs left his daughter with his parents, telling them he had an emergency. Days later, a state trooper in Utah stopped him for a license plate issue and found that he was wanted for homicide.
Our son is a beautiful human being. He loves family. He was so excited about everything in his life.
According to the officer, Beggs became emotional and admitted that he snapped and didn't mean to do it. During the investigation, a neighbor reported hearing loud noises from Story's home around the time of the incident. The case was then presented to a grand jury, leading to a trial. In November 2019, Beggs pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison, with 25 years suspended, requiring him to serve 15 years behind bars. During his confession, he admitted that while he believed he had reasons for his actions at the time, he now understands they were wrong. Authorities responded to an apartment on Socrates Place, where they found 24-year-old Paige Callejas in critical condition. She was transported to the hospital but didn't survive. Her son and daughter were present at the time but were unharmed. Investigators believe an earlier altercation may have led to the tragic incident.
This is Corvette Pope, 24 CRA 5922, one count of aggravated murder.
Thank you. Ms. Pope, good morning. Yes, counsel for Ms. Pope.
Thank you, Your Honor. Abigail Schock for Ms. Pope. At this time, we'll enter technical pleas not guilty to all counts. We have a reading of the complaint. We would ask that counsel be appointed, and we would ask to be heard on that when appropriate. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, Mr. Haas.
Thank you, Your Honor. Based on this allegation, the recommendation is $1 million, 10% to include maximum pretrial supervision with GPS monitoring, house arrest.
Yes, ma'am, from the state.
We have no objection to that, Your Honor. And pretrial didn't state it. It's usually pretty standard. I'm not sure if Ms. Pope has a passport, but if she does, we would ask that that passport be surrendered.
Corvette Pope, 25, was later arrested and charged with aggravated murder in connection to Callejas' death. During her court appearance, she pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors requested a $1 million bond with 10% payment along with GPS monitoring, house arrest, and the surrender of any passports.
Thank you, Your Honor. We understand the serious nature of these charges. However, I would note for the court, my client's 25 years old. She is an Akron resident. She does not have a prior felony record. She is a mother of 2 children, ages 4 and 2. She's not currently employed at this time. I believe a $250,000 bond, 10% with all pretrial supervision conditions would be appropriate to secure her appearance at this time. No objection to the state's request to surrender a passport, and no objection to those pretrial conditions. Thank you.
Pope's defense argued for a $250,000 bond, emphasizing that she is a mother of 2, a longtime resident, and has no prior felony record.
Again, Your Honor, we just reiterate, we believe pretrial recommendation is very sufficient of the $1 million 10% based on not only the nature of the charge, but the allegations set forth.
All right, thank you. Counsel will be appointed for Ms. Pope. In the meantime, ma'am, your bond will be set at $1 million 10%, and that is with a GPS, maximum supervision, which will include house arrest, and if you have a passport, that must be surrendered. And was there any other condition?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
The judge ultimately set her bond at $1 million with strict pretrial conditions. A second suspect, 19-year-old Denzel Pope, was arrested in Chicago and extradited to Akron, where he faces aggravated murder charges related to the case. Both suspects are awaiting trial as the legal process continues. On June 26, 2023, in Hardin County, Kentucky, a tragic incident unfolded inside a family home. Ashley Henning, a mother and U.S. Army soldier, was fatally shot by her husband, Jordan Henning, following an argument after her birthday celebration. Jordan and Ashley were both in the military. According to multiple testimonies presented during the trial, their relationship was deeply troubled.
Can you tell us some of the problems that were talked about?
Jordan's primary issue he had was Ashley was not having sex with him. That was one of the main things he would always say, was he didn't feel like Ashley appreciated him, and because he would do things for her and she didn't show appreciation, and she would not have sex with him.
Friends and neighbors described ongoing conflict, with Jordan often expressing frustration over intimacy issues and a lack of appreciation from Ashley.
Jordan was talking about his marriage with Ashley, and I told him, I said, well, maybe you and my husband can talk, because me and my husband had been married for 18 years at the time. I said, marriages have problems. You can go talk to my husband. And he said, because he actually got in my face. We were drinking, we were on the back patio. He got in my face, he grabbed my face like this, and I pushed his hands off me. I said, Jordan, get out of my face, step back and talk to me. Because like I said, when he's drinking, he's there. He's touchy, he's grabby, he's handsy, so he grabbed my face like this, and he goes, I need you to hear me. And I pushed his hands off me, and I said, Jordan, get off of me, back up, you can talk to me. And I said, you probably can talk to Brandon about this, because for me, it was like he was a man. He should have been talking to my husband, more talking to my husband, because I was Ashley's friend. And he said, no, I don't. He goes, I respect your opinion. He goes, because your husband's softer than you. He goes, you're more like me. He goes, there's people that are like us. He goes, there's not many of them, but he goes, you're more like me.
Could I have the same objection? Okay. Thank you. Carry
on. And that led us into a whole conversation about how me and him, and I said, well, people like us, I said, we're just built different because of our life experiences. That's just, we have to learn to be abrasive to a point. And that pretty much led us to, him saying, well, there's just some people who are just made weak. And he goes, you're a female. He goes, not many females are strong. He goes, even a lot of men, he goes, even Jason and Jimmy, because during that conversation that night, which was a previous night, he had talked about his neighbors because they kept coming over to their house, because like I said, we talked about literally everything. We talked about religion that night. We talked about their neighbors because they talked about how the neighbors knew they had marriage problems, but they would always come over when they would see them outside and wouldn't give them space to have their time. We talked about how Jordan felt that there was a lot of people that, that were soft and didn't understand, how to be hard or, what it meant to be hard. And he talked about how the neighbors, were soft, and I was different than neighbors. And he goes, a lot of people like to try to be like us. He goes, but they're not like us. So I think there was a boundary very set early on with me and Jordan from that night forward, from that conversation, to where when he put his hands on my face and I pushed him off of me and I said, Jordan, don't do that. Because I said, there's just certain lines with me you do not cross. I said, my lines are, you do not F with my husband and you do not F with my kids. And he laughed and he goes, yeah. I said, that to me, you mess with my husband and you mess with my kids, I said, I will gladly rock a jumpsuit and smile in my mugshot if you cross those lines with me. I said, you can come in my house, you can steal my stuff, you can do anything, but don't cross those lines with me. Don't mess with my family. That is important to me. And Jordan laughed and he said, yeah, he goes, I feel similar. He goes, but the difference between me and you is he goes, being military, he goes, I can claim PTSD, and because I take testosterone injections, he goes, I can say I had a rage moment and claim insanity. And I was like, yeah, you actually do have a leg up on me if something ever crazy did happen. So Jordan, he was just going back to the party. He was just very abrasive. He was in your face. Like, that's just who he was. He made himself known. But I think there was very early on that respect was known of Jordan, you're not going to come at me. You're not going to cross the line. You're not going to put your hands on me. That's just something we're not going to do. And I think because he's seen I was different than people he probably normally was around. I was definitely different than Ashley. He respected that boundary with me that he didn't respect with others.
One neighbor, Jamie Savat, recounted a conversation where Jordan, while discussing marital issues, mentioned that due to his military background and medical history, he could potentially claim PTSD or a rage moment if he ever acted out violently. He reportedly said he could claim temporary insanity and would have an easier time legally navigating the consequences of a violent act. The night of the shooting, the couple had hosted a birthday party for Ashley. After the guests left, a dispute arose over cleaning up. One of Ashley's sons became alarmed and ran to neighbor Jimmy Watts for help. Watts came to the house and attempted to intervene, but was allegedly placed in a headlock by Jordan, who told him to leave. Watts did so and called 911. Shortly after, Jordan retrieved a firearm from upstairs. Surveillance footage from their home later revealed Ashley sitting in a patio chair as Jordan approached with the weapon. Ashley was heard pleading with him to stop and be a man, but he opened fire. Jordan later told investigators and the court that he broke after years of emotional strain and marital discord. On the witness stand, he said he deeply regretted his actions, calling what he did monstrous and admitting that he had destroyed lives that day. The defense presented a psychology psychologist who testified that Jordan was suffering from extreme emotional disturbance at the time of the shooting. The prosecution, however, portrayed the act as deliberate and cruel, emphasizing that Jordan made the choice to retrieve a gun, confront Ashley, and shoot her.
In the case of Commonwealth Kentucky versus Jordan Henning, the verdict on the penalty phase is we, the jury, fix the defendant's punishment for the offense of first-degree manslaughter under instruction number 1 at 20 years, signed by the foreperson. Again, let me ask, is that the unanimous verdict of the entire jury? All 12 members? All right, thank you.
The jury found Jordan guilty of first-degree manslaughter, a lesser charge than murder, and he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, the maximum allowed for that conviction under Kentucky law. He must serve at least 85% of that sentence before becoming eligible for parole. In January 2007, Channon Christian and Christopher Newsom, a young couple from Knoxville, Tennessee, were carjacked while preparing for a date. They were abducted and taken to a house on Chipman Street, where they were brutally assaulted. Christopher was later found shot and his body tampered near railroad tracks. Channon was held longer, subjected to further abuse, and eventually killed. Her body was discovered days later at the same residence. The gruesome nature of the crime shocked the community and led to the arrest of 5 individuals: Lamarcus Davidson, Latalvis Cobbins, George Thomas, Vanessa Coleman, and Eric Boyd. Davidson, believed to be the ringleader, was sentenced to death. Cobbins and Thomas received life without parole, while Coleman was given a 5-year sentence. Eric Boyd, however, was initially charged only in federal court for harboring Davidson and was sentenced to 18 years in prison. In 2018, new evidence emerged directly linking Boyd to the kidnapping, rape, and murders of Christian and Newsom. The Knox County District Attorney's Office filed new charges against him, including first-degree murder, especially aggravated kidnapping, aggravated rape, and robbery. Boyd stood trial in 2019. After weeks of testimony and evidence, the jury found him guilty on 36 counts.
Ms. Baumgartner, has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, it has.
Ms. Baumgartner, with respect to count 1, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Hugh Christopher Newsom during the perpetration of robbery of Hugh Christopher Newsom. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
In count 2, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Hugh Christopher Newsom during the perpetration of robbery of Channon Christian. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
In count 3, first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Channon Christian during the perpetration of robbery of Hugh Christopher Newsom. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
In count 4, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Channon Christian during the perpetration of robbery of Channon Christian. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
In count 5, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Hugh Christopher Newsom during the perpetration of kidnapping of Hugh Christopher Newsom. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
In count 6, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Hugh Christopher Newsom during the perpetration of kidnapping of Channon Christian. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
In count 7, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Channon Christian during the perpetration of kidnapping of Hugh Christopher Newsom. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
In count 8, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Channon Christian during the perpetration of kidnapping of Channon Christian. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
In count 9, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Hugh Christopher Newsom during the perpetration of Hugh Christopher Newsom. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
On count 10, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Hugh Christopher Newsom during the perpetration of Channon Christian. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
On count 11, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Channon Christian during the perpetration of rape of Hugh Christopher Newsom. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
Count 12, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Channon Christian during the perpetration of rape of Channon Christian. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
Count 13, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Hugh Christopher Newsom during the perpetration of theft of property of Hugh Christopher Newsom. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
Count 14, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Hugh Christopher Newsom during the perpetration of theft of property of Channon Christian. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
Count 15, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Channon Christian during the perpetration of theft of property of Hugh Christopher Newsom. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
Count 16, the first offense charged, first-degree felony murder of Channon Christian during the perpetration of theft of property of Channon Christian. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
Count 17, the first offense charged, premeditated first-degree murder of Hugh Christopher Newsom. Did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
He was convicted of felony murder, aggravated rape, and kidnapping of both victims. While he was acquitted of especially aggravated robbery, he was found guilty of the lesser charge of aggravated robbery.
The jury found Mr. guilty of murder, the murder of Christopher Newsom and the murder of Channon Christian. And the court did go ahead at that time and sentenced him to life with the possibility of parole for the murder of Christopher Newsom. And did sentence the defendant to life with the possibility of parole for the murder of Channon Christian. The court does now order that the life sentence in count 3 for the murder of Channon Christian will run consecutively to the sentence imposed in count 1 for the murder of Christopher Newsom. With respect to the remaining counts, the Class A felonies, in each of those, in each A felony, the sentence will be 60 years as specified by our sentencing statute. The court will order that those A felonies will run concurrently with each other, but consecutively to the life sentence in count 3. And the count 3 Class D felonies will be ordered to run concurrently. They'll either merge or run concurrently with each other, but run consecutively to the sentences imposed in the Class A felonies. The total effective sentences, 2 life sentences stacked plus 90 years. That'll be the sentence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I can go to my grave now, satisfied that I fought a good fight.
Boyd was sentenced to 2 life terms with a possibility of parole for his role in the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Channon Christian and Christopher Newsom. In addition to the life sentences, he was convicted on 8 Class A felony charges, each carrying a 60-year sentence. The judge ordered these sentences to run concurrently with each other, but consecutively to the life terms, resulting in a total sentence of 2 life terms plus 90 years. The ruling brought long overdue justice for the families, who had waited more than a decade for full accountability. On June 21st, 2021, a fatal encounter took place outside a fast food restaurant on Dunn Avenue in Jacksonville, Florida. Surveillance footage showed a 37-year-old man walking away from a red vehicle when the driver, identified as 28-year-old Dawn Michelle Browning, pointed a firearm and fired a single shot before quickly fleeing the area. A witness who saw the incident provided authorities with the vehicle's license plate number, helping investigators identify Browning. The following day, she was located in Cobb County, Georgia, where she was taken into custody on unrelated drug and weapons charges. During questioning, Browning admitted to the shooting, citing a disagreement over money as her motive. She was extradited back to Florida and formally charged with second-degree murder.
On the firearm that was used to kill the victim in this case, and she ultimately, made admissions to the murder of Christopher Stoffey.
All right, any exceptions or objections to a factual basis?
No, Judge.
I'll find there is a factual basis for the entry of Ms. Browning's plea of guilty to this charge, and I'll further find her plea has been entered freely, willingly, and voluntarily with a full understanding of the nature and consequences of doing so. So I am going to accept your plea of guilty, Ms. Browning, to this offense. And at this time then, I will allow the victims to provide their victim impact statement. Who would like to go first?
In court proceedings, Browning entered a guilty plea. The presiding judge found the plea to be voluntary and informed and formally accepted it. Following the plea, the court allowed the victim's family to speak. Family members described the lasting impact of the loss.
So on June 21st, 2021, this young lady drove up to my son, and when he turned around to walk away, she shot him, and he died. My only child, Christopher, was. For 36 years, I have been taking care of my child. I don't understand it. My son, who was only 36, gone. And as his mother, my heart has been crushed. My heart is crushed for his children also. You took him away from 2 small children that one really needs his father right now. You have a child yourself, but you will get to see her someday and be with her. My grandchildren nor I don't get that choice. What kind of justice is that? My grandson plays baseball, and 2 nights ago he pitched for the first time, and I cried because his dad isn't here to see how proud his son was. And his daughter is starting gymnastics at 4 years old, which she loves, and he's not going to be able to be there either. He also is not here for his stepdad to lecture him once again about every action has a reaction. Well, this also applies to you. So your actions is what put you here. We're never going to be able to sit down with my son and reminisce about this, excuse me, about the things he was involved in as a boy or a teenager, because you took that away from me and Mike. I read a letter I read that letter you wrote, and not once did you mention my son's name, but everything was about you. There was no sorrow in that letter, and I don't believe you have any remorse for what you did. I fully believe you should be in jail for life, but instead will serve 35 years, and I hope you have to do every minute and every day of that 35 years. Because in 35 more years, my son still won't be around. But his grandchildren will, but his children will.
His mother shared her heartbreak, explaining how the absence of her only son had devastated their lives, particularly for his son and daughter. She spoke about missed milestones, like baseball games and school performances that would now be experienced without their father. Another relative connected to the court through video call emphasized the emotional toll on the entire family, expressing sorrow over the lasting void.
June 21st, 2021. It's an important day that we will all remember. Almost 2 years ago, it's the day Christopher Earl Stoffey was murdered. He wasn't just a person. He was the only son to Gail and Mike, a funny, adventurous, and supportive uncle, cousin, and brother, and a father to two beautiful children, Ethan and Aria. Aria was only 2 years old when he died. She will never know how he was or get to experience the overprotective dad. She will never attend daddy and daughter dances with him or get to sing random karaoke songs.
After the proceedings, Dawn Michelle Browning was sentenced to 35 years in Florida State Prison. While her sentencing brought legal closure to the case, the emotional consequences for the victims' loved ones continue to endure. In early June 2007, Anita Knutson, an 18-year-old student at Minot State University, was living with her roommate, Nicole Rice, in an apartment in Minot, North Dakota. Anita's family became concerned when they couldn't reach her over the weekend. On June 4th, 2007, her father, Gordon Knutson, visited her apartment to check on her. He found her car parked outside, but there was no response at the door, which was locked. Gordon sought assistance from the apartment manager, Laura Knapp, to access the unit. During this time, maintenance worker Marty Annell noticed a slashed window screen on the ground near Anita's bedroom window.
Yes, that's right.
And Sharon asked you to check on Anita.
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
What did you do when Sharon asked you to check on her?
I said, that's the first thing I'm going to do, is go there.
About what time did you go there?
Well, I think we left right after I had breakfast, and it takes about an hour to get there, so it's about when I got up there.
Okay. And do you know approximately what time of day that would have been?
Around 10 o'clock.
About 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you check on Anita?
I just went up and knocked on the door, and in fact, several times there was no answer. I tried to see if it was if I could get in, and it was locked.
Then what did you do?
And I had noticed that her car was there, but I didn't, at that time, didn't think too much about it because she a lot of times went with a friend.
Okay. So what did you do next?
Well, I went back to town because this is in North Hill where she lived, and I went. We all three of us got what we needed. Then I started home, and Sharon called me and said she still couldn't get a hold of Anita.
Okay, I'm going to back you up a little bit, Gordon. You said all three of us. You had other people with you?
I had two friends with me.
Okay. And so then you received another call from Sharon. So then what did you do?
I turned around and went back up to where she lived.
And about what time was that?
I would say it was around noon, I believe. I'm not sure of that, but
And what did you do when you got back to the apartment?
I went straight to the manager's office and told him that we couldn't get a hold of Anita and that I would like to see what's going on if she would let me in.
Did you have a key to Anita's apartment?
Did I have a key?
Correct. Did you have a key?
No, I didn't have a key.
Why did you go to find the manager?
To get into the apartment.
Once you found the manager, what did you do?
She said that she could get into trouble if she did that. And I said, you can get into trouble if you don't do it too.
So then what happened?
She got up and got the keys, and about that time, the maintenance man was there also, and he stated that he had found a screen from a window of one of the apartments, and he thought it was from her apartment.
So then what did you do?
When they entered the apartment, they found Anita's body on her bed. She had been fatally stabbed, and a robe was draped over her. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting the attacker may have been someone she trusted. Anita's roommate at the time was 19-year-old Nicole Rice. The two reportedly had a tense relationship, with minor conflicts over shared living arrangements. Despite the early investigation, no arrests were made, and the case remained unsolved for nearly 15 years. In March 2022, following a renewed look at the evidence, police arrested Nicole Rice and charged her with Anita's murder. In March 2025, Rice's trial began in Grand Forks, North Dakota. The court heard emotional testimony from Gordon Knutson, who recalled the discovery of his daughter's body and the disturbing memory of the day.
Do you recall the maintenance man?
His name? No, I don't.
Do you recall talking to him that day?
The only thing I know about him after that was in the paper he committed.
Okay. Did he get the screen for you that you were talking about earlier?
Yes.
And he thought that was Anita's screen?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see where the screen was?
No, I didn't. He said it was about out in the middle of the lawn.
Okay. Did he tell you anything about curtains or a curtain rod from Anita's room?
No.
He didn't tell you that he had thrown the curtains and curtain rod back in her room earlier?
I don't remember that, no.
Gordon, do you remember doing a deposition a couple of years ago with Miss Sorgan and Mr. Becker from our office?
All right.
Do you recall talking about the maintenance man and what had happened at that deposition? I can rephrase that if that's hard to understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you recall discussing the maintenance man with Ms. Sorgan and Mr. Becker at the deposition?
You're right. I could recall that. And what he was asking me, well, how many feet away the screen was. And I said, well, I really don't know. He said, well, was it 5 feet or 10 feet? I says, no, more like 100.
Do you recall specific?
He didn't ask me any more about that.
Do you recall specifically discussing how it could have been that the maintenance man didn't see Anita's body?
No, I didn't talk about that. I wondered about it because as soon as I got a few feet away, there was a flower bed, outside at the bottom, so you couldn't get too close without walking in it. But I knew something was definitely wrong.
He recounted that the maintenance man who spotted the screen had later died by suicide, a detail that weighed heavily on him. When questioned why the body hadn't been seen through the window, Gordon explained that landscaping outside the apartment blocked the view. The prosecution presented multiple witnesses who testified that Rice had confessed to the killing years earlier. William May, a former boyfriend of Rice, told the court that at a 2008 house party, Rice, allegedly intoxicated, admitted to committing the crime. Another witness, Christina Haller, testified that Rice had also confessed during a private conversation, saying an argument over an alarm clock led to the stabbing. The defense questioned the reliability of these confessions, highlighting the time that had passed and inconsistencies in the accounts. They also noted that neither witness had reported the alleged admissions to authorities at the time they occurred. As of March 2025, the trial remains ongoing, with both sides continuing to present their arguments in a case that has drawn widespread attention due to its long, unsolved nature and the emotional toll it has taken on those involved. Big thanks to our viewers for joining the courtroom journey with us. Your interest in the stories of justice is what keeps our channel alive.